fired FBI Director James Comey in a new interview set to air tonight. There's a little bit of an excerpt there. Let's bring in Democratic strategist Don Calloway, CEO of Park Street Strategies, Republican strategist Lauren Zelt, Managing Director of FP1 Strategies, and Democratic strategist Morris Reed, a partner at Mercury. Morris, we'll start with you. That admission that we just saw there, how will it change Democrats' view about James Comey and his credibility, if at all?
Well, I think first and foremost, he should have stayed focused on the facts. He should have done a thorough investigation instead of worrying about who would become president and what the impact would have been done. That should have never entered into the equation. He should have followed the process thoroughly and came to a conclusion, which we ultimately know the letter led nowhere. So the fact that he was even about politics will make more Democrats more upset about his decision-making process. But at the end of the day, we know ultimately that James Comey wasn't the reason that Hillary Clinton lost. It was some flaws in the campaigns, but ultimately, when you lose, you want to point the finger. But when you have a guy that's supposed to be non-political, thinking of political things, it's a problem.
Lauren, do you think here, as you were watching the tape, that it's possible that Comey's decision to move forward with that on the email investigation influenced the election outcome, favoring Donald Trump?
I don't think it influenced the election outcome, but I do think it's troubling that he was thinking of things in a political lens. You know, I agree that the head of the FBI should not be looking at things through a political lens. So, you know, I do think in terms of where we are now, that it's probably good that he's not, you know, the person in charge of the FBI at this moment. You know, public servants like this shouldn't be thinking in terms of politics this way. But, you know, I will say I want to push back a little bit on some of the Republicans that are, you know, calling his credibility into question. I mean, look, if you're a public servant in the role that he was in, if you are upsetting Democrats and Republicans alike, generally you're often doing something right. But I just think at this moment he wasn't, you know, the right person to be in this job, and so I think it's better that he's gone.
Don, react to that, please, as well as I want you to listen to this. This is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, who is reacting to this new interview clip that we showed from James Comey.
I think he made the same mistake in many respects that the Obama administration made more broadly, and for the same reason. And that is the Obama administration didn't aggressively take on the Russians while their hacking and dumping was going on, while the social media campaign was going on, because in part I think they felt that, like Comey, Hillary Clinton was likely to win, and that it would feed into Trump's argument that they were rigging the process.
Is that a fair comparison?
It is. I think that the congressman is absolutely right, and Barack Obama has admitted candidly that he did not do what he could have done. Vice President Biden has said that they didn't do what they could have done because, of course, they're political, they're Democrats, they're campaigning for Hillary Clinton, but they are not supposed to be seen as weighing in on the process. I think that Jim Comey's admission somewhat in an odd way humanizes him. Of course, he's a straight-edge law and order guy, as was Andrew McCabe, but it's kind of unrealistic to suggest that Jim Comey, who is paying attention to everything, he has friends, he has family, he lives in D.C., is not somehow aware of the tremendous political ramifications. And I think it's very honest of him to admit that he was thinking that, but he also says it's important to hammer home that he says he still would have sent the letter, so the outcome would have been the same. But it's fairly humanizing to suggest that, yeah, he still was thinking about it. It was in his mind because he's only a normal guy like the rest of us.
Perhaps getting out.
Well, he shouldn't have had that job then, for sure. The fact is that he should have never been looking from a political lens, period. He's the FBI director. And ultimately, when you're Hillary Clinton and you don't go to Wisconsin, you don't win the election. No. So the bottom line was
said he said it wouldn't have changed his actions, though.
About these things. The point
you got to think about it. He's a normal guy. He's a human. Of course he's thinking about it. He's a human. He lives in D.C. But he's still...
Okay, let's let Don go.
He said it didn't change his outcome.
Go ahead and react to Morris.
He's a human. Of course he's thinking about it. It's very honest for him to admit that he was thinking about it. But at the end of the day, he says that he still would have sent the letter. And again, as Morris admitted at the top of the segment, that's not why Hillary Clinton lost the election. It might have been a factor. I believe it was a factor. But Hillary Clinton could have gone to Wisconsin. And frankly, there are a lot of folks who just were ready for a change.
All right, Morris, I also want to get into some of the content of Comey's book out on Tuesday. He writes about multiple attempts by President Trump to convince him that the most salacious dossier details were untrue. And he also writes about his impression that the president's orange skin tone and bags under his eyes seemed indicative of tanning goggles. You've seen that. Do you think here that Comey has an axe to grind against President Trump?
You know, some of the things he's saying are just mystifying. I mean, it seems on the one hand he's sympathetic, and on the other hand he's poking fun. On the other hand, he's just completely outraged.
Okay.
So I don't actually know what the point of this book is other than to make money, because it sounds like he's settling scores. He's being humanized, as my colleague said. But at the end of the day, for me, he should have just never been in that seat.
Right.
And Hillary Clinton should have run a better campaign.
15 seconds to you, Lauren. Sorry to do that to you.
Oh, no, not a problem at all. You know, I agree that he, shouldn't have been that seat, shouldn't have been thinking through a political lens, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is a political tell-all book. Usually they come from political operatives, campaign staffers and others. It's very rare to see it from someone who was in charge of the FBI. And so, I think we need to take all of this with a grain of salt at the end of the day.
All right, Lauren Zelt, Don Calloway, Morris Reed, thank you for your spirit, your passion today. Thank you. Coming up in just a few minutes, California Congresswoman Maxine